Hey everyone, it's Jonathan and welcome back to Wonderland Wednesday. Today we're talking about Mickey's Adventures in Wonderland, a TV special that I didn't even know existed until a couple months ago. I'm slowly trying to finally make my way through all the Disney Alice in Wonderland content this year, and so far there's been more than I expected. I thought I had like 3 things to go until I started looking, and then suddenly I'm finding things like this, a 2009 Disney Junior TV special putting Mickey Mouse in the Alice role again. Sort of. This special is very tangentially Alice related. Yes, there are references to the book, and yes, there is a general Wonderland vibe, but it's not really an adaptation of the story, it's just its own thing. Which I guess is fine, but wasn't really what I was expecting. Either way, I had fun talking about it. Jenna is joining me again, and then I found out my friend Carmen grew up watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, so I thought it'd be fun to have her on to talk about it with us as well. So, Mickey in Wonderland is a lot less Wonderland than I expected.
Yeah.
But also they had more references than I expected. Like, not a ton, but like little things here and there that I was like, oh, okay.
It's not the best. Obviously, this is inspired by Alice in Wonderland thing than actual adaptation.
Mhm.
I can appreciate that they wanted to do their own thing with it. That said, though, I'm not really a fan of this version of it. But there are some neat ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like story-wise they could have done more to be closer, even though they were doing their own thing, but I felt like they didn't go far enough with the story itself.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Carmen? And how did you remember this episode from when you were a kid?
Yeah, when Jonathan initially mentioned it to me, I didn't, and then I watched it and I was like, the minute tick tock, we have to fix the cuckoo clock hit, I had flashbacks. Like I was like, yeah, okay. And then I'm like, oh, then we're gonna get chipmunks singing with like weird hats, and then I'm like, oh, doesn't Pete like, isn't he like the cat or whatever? Yeah, so it started rushing back to me. I don't think this was a favorite of mine as a kid, just because I didn't initially remember it. Because a lot of these other episodes that I was scrolling through on Disney Plus, I was like, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. But, like, this one, not so much, but it must have aired at a certain point if I had access to it, because I didn't, to my knowledge, I didn't own any of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse DVDs or any DVD that had like an episode of it on it.
Yeah, because I think this is a special.
Yeah, it was fine. I did end up multitasking during it a little bit because it felt a little bit repetitive. Like it felt like they were checking off the boxes for like things you need to do to make this like Wonderland themed. I don't know. It
Yeah,
was
ironically, for an episode about time, it is certainly time freezes when you watch this one. I had to multitask too. No judging.
I don't know. The songs weren't super catchy except for the cuckoo clock one where they walk down the street with their arms out. Like that just brought back so many vivid memories. I was like, oh my God. I don't know. And then of course it's a surprise birthday gift for Daisy. Of course, they can't make a special without making it a surprise birthday as well.
That's weird. It's an episode about Daisy's birthday party, but Daisy's barely in it.
That's true. That's true.
It doesn't even have a Wonderland equivalent like everyone else does.
Yeah.
Or are they in Wonderland?
I don't really know.
I totally expected some like actual character from the Alice in Wonderland like series to pop up, but none of them did. So I was like, interesting.
For some reason, I was thinking that there would actually be a Cheshire Cat. I don't know why I thought that, but then it was just Pete, who called himself Pete the Cat, and there's already a children's book character named Pete the Cat. So I was like, is this copyright infringement?
I
Yeah.
think that was before Pete the Cat was a thing.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Well, this is 2009. I don't know when Pete the Cat came out. I can check it up. I don't remember it being a thing at the time.
I don't know why there wasn't like one character from Alice in Wonderland in this.
Oh, that's funny.
Like it's Disney, so like you would think there would be like one thing in it that you could point to
Mm-hmm.
and be like, yeah, that's someone from Alice in Wonderland.
So just Pete the Cat, the book came out 2008. So probably when they were producing this episode was around that same time it came out.
It probably is
They
just
got
one of those
lucky.
things that it's a kind of a
Coincidence.
coincidence.
Yeah, I think personally I would give them the free pass on this.
And Pete is a cat anyway, so I think
Yeah,
it's just the fact that he called himself Pete the Cat, which he never does, was the thing that made it stand out.
I think they had him do that because people forget Pete is a cat because his ears are small.
Yeah,
That
Like
that's true. I never knew what he was when I was a
even
kid.
I had a moment where I was like, "Oh
yeah.
yeah, he is a cat."
I thought for the longest time as a kid he was like a pit bull, you know? But
Really? That was interesting.
yeah, because like of the short ears and like sometimes pit bulls have like short ears like that, or like a Doberman or something, or a bulldog. Like I just thought he was like one of those like strong type of dogs until like I saw him in like other forms of media where he was like referred to as like a cat. So I had to learn.
Yeah, I just thought he was a. I thought he was a bear when I was a kid. Like,
Well, he started as a bear before he
yeah,
morphed into the cat.
it's the big frame that makes me think bear.
Yeah.
Honestly, if they had named him Tom to be like a tomcat to justify how big he was, I think I would have pieced it together as a kid, but Pete probably threw me off.
Well, he was like originally Pete the Bear, so that makes sense that his name doesn't really feel cat-like.
Yeah.
Well, like we said, the point is that it's Daisy's birthday. They're throwing her a birthday party, and they have a scene where Donald and Mickey are fighting over this present for her, which is a cuckoo clock.
Yeah.
And like Donald is angry because he wants to see this bird again, and he's like shaking the clock and screaming at it. I was like, this is peak Donald behavior.
I was like, this is more toddler than Donald. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
get
That's
this.
kind of true. But
Yeah.
Donald, like, he hasn't acted fully as the crazed Donald that you kind of expect in this show. So this felt more closer to what you would expect from Angry Donald than stuff we'd gotten before, or at least the ones that I've seen. Like, I haven't watched the whole show. I just the episodes that I had watched.
He definitely felt more like his character overall in this episode than
Hmm.
normal. But that said, I would say it feels like a toddler version of his
Kind
character.
of. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mickey's trying to save the clock from him and they're fighting over it. It gets launched into the air, it breaks, and then the cuckoo escapes out of the clock, so they have to catch it.
The cuckoo bird is sentient, and they want to
Everything is
have it.
sentient in this show.
They are the bad guys. Okay.
Actually, if you look at it that way, you kind of are. They're trying to
Yeah.
enslave
Yes,
this
they're
tiny bird.
imprisoning a sentient bird. Like that's exactly what I was thinking of. I'm like, he wants to be free. Don't stuff him
Let
in a
him
clock.
let him go.
Yeah. Get a different clock. There's so many
Yeah.
not
Also,
real birds, Donald.
I believe a cuckoo clock is a horrible present. Cuckoo clock should only be bought by people with knowledge of how to take care of them, and the cuckoos die. No,
Yeah.
I'm joking about that part, but no, really, like it's not a good present because they're so noisy.
Yeah, well,
So,
they do take care because they won't work after a while. They have to be kept up. Like you have to
oh
wind them and
yes,
keep them clean. And we used to have one, and I don't know if my parents got sick of caring for it or what. We don't have it anymore. I don't know where it went. Actually,
I don't
maybe
yeah,
my brother broke it.
I don't know.
It might have
I mean,
fallen. I don't remember.
they're fun, but they're very noisy. You really have to want one.
I don't know like how Donald looked at Daisy and was like, yeah, Daisy's gonna want a cuckoo clock.
I thought that too. I was like, why is this the present you're buying for Daisy?
Because the plot, they have to go to
Yeah, I
Wonderland.
guess so. But I feel like there's easier ways to get them to Wonderland.
Like I've been alive for so many years. I've had so many birthdays that I've had to celebrate for Daisy. I don't have a lot of options anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
You're running out.
yeah,
Daisy's like 75. She's got everything.
yeah. We're never gonna die. So maybe when do you get the duck that has everything? A cuckoo clock. She definitely doesn't have one of those. Um, but I think the real Daisy would not like this gift.
No.
Uh,
If you gave this clock to Daisy in like the Paul Rudish cartoons, she would be furious.
yeah,
That thing would be launched and smashed.
yeah. I should be like, anything else? What about a new bow? Like new shoes or uh, yeah. But this is the clubhouse Daisy. She's nicer and she likes cuckoo clocks. So there we go. So it's a great present. I'm sure she loves taking care of cuckoo birds. Though, can I
Hopefully.
just say, so after the fight, Donald and Mickey have, or the kerfuffle over the clock, the clock says the cuckoo to bird leave. I wrote, Donald says, "Look what you made me do," and and I don't know why. I just like, wow, it's kind of toxic, Donald. Going all Taylor Swift on us. Um, but this would have been before that. But still, I find that interesting. This is kind of a tangent, so I'm sorry. But I find it interesting looking back at children's shows, kind of with the knowledge of being an adult and having engaged with other adults, some of who are not emotionally healthy and can engage in toxic behaviors, how shows for children handle that kind of stuff. And like recently, I was rewatching Sophia the First, and there was an episode called Stormy Lonnie that I really did not like how they handled basically this child having temper tantrums and the main character essentially putting it on the main character to help her. And I was like, I really don't think this is a healthy thing for children. But so it's funny watching children's shows and like be on the lookout for like phrases like that and just being like, ooh, okay, here it's a joke played off, and Donald is meant to be, not the role model. But I don't think that's ever really addressed that he I guess it's kind of addressed later because Mickey tells him he needs to be more patient and everything.
Hmm.
But like the things he does, he kind of gets a pass on this episode. I don't know. I'm probably holding it to too high of a standard for what it's meant to do. But I probably for that alone, I don't think I would show this to my kids.
I agree. I thought Donald was annoying in this episode too, because like that scene with like Goofy and his chocolate milk and Donald's like messes everything up by leaping at the cuckoo bird really frustrated me because I'm like, Donald, what have we learned? What have we learned? Mickey's been telling you since the episode started to be patient, which I find funny. Like there's no arc for Mickey. Mickey's just like good. Flat good in this episode. He is the saint, like telling Donald all of the life lessons, which Donald like does not pick up on.
The thing about Mickey is Mickey had a very rough start. He was just as bad as Donald when he was born. But like we stand Mickey because, and I say that a little ironically, but we stand him because he had character growth. It's not just because he was forced to become a company mascot. No, he grew up as a mouse. Um, Unfortunately, Donald lacks that growth, and Mickey's trying really, really hard to help him.
Yeah.
To help all his friends, really. Um, but yeah, this one does Donald really does kind of grate on you in this one, which is it's difficult because on one hand, this is not really a show meant for character interactions and growth. It's more meant to tell, do the call and response and to like learn about in this episode timekeeping, what an hour is, and yada that kind of stuff, versus actual interpersonal relationships. But yeah, this one just wears on you a lot because it takes Donald a little too long to learn his lesson.
Felt like
Hmm.
the episode in general was too long. But that's because it was
I
technically
agree.
the length of two episodes, but they could have got it done in a half hour.
That is true. It feels like they stretched out what should have been a half-hour episode into almost an hour,
Hmm.
and that doesn't help in this case, and it makes Donald way more annoying than he really should be.
Yeah.
I think I probably wouldn't have found him so annoying if it was a normal episode length. But he makes the same mistake several times, and that's
Hmm.
what gets on the nerves. So yeah, I agree with you, Carmen.
Yeah, the episode length surprised me because again, like once it was halfway in, I didn't see a point to why it needed to be double length except for the fact that this was Mickey in Wonderland. Because it did feel like after a certain amount of time that it was kind of the same thing happening where they just needed more information about the cuckoo bird. And here's an Alice in Wonderland reference with a Mickey character. Okay, so they're sent on their way and they gotta ask, Pete for a riddle, and then they're sent on their way. And I don't know. It's a little repetitive, and I think they could have kept it the same length if it wasn't so repetitive to where it was just like stop and ask someone, move on, stop and ask someone, move on, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd argue most of these interactions didn't need to happen in terms of their story.
I think most of
Um,
them were put in here because they wanted Wonderland references.
yeah,
That's the only reason why I think they met some of these characters because they added nothing else to the story.
Yeah.
yeah, they really, really didn't. Heck, what is Minnie? What is she? Who is she? She's just there.
She knew them and they called her Minnie, so it was like the Minnie. But like,
Yeah,
why
I'm
is
like,
she in
wait,
this
then she's
magic
not.
place?
Yeah, she's not Wonderland Minnie because I did see I watched a tiny little bit of the last episode on Disney Plus, just a tiny bit, and I saw that like for instance, Goofy refers to like Pete, who's acting as the Beast in the Beauty and the Beast thing, as Be Beast Pete. So I'm like, okay, they're able to acknowledge that they could see their friends again, but in like alternate dimensional versions of themselves.
Hmm.
I'm fine with that. I don't care. That's fine. Um, but in this one, I feel it's really confused, especially because Minnie here she doesn't seem to be a Wonderland character at all. And she's like, "Oh, hi, Mickey. I'll see you later." That's like, okay, so she's there. She's actually, why is she there? Like,
Yeah, I thought
this,
she was going to be like the Queen of Hearts. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Because we'd seen other characters before this, and they were like Chip and Dale were Tweedlechip and Tweedledale. And
yeah.
Professor Von Drake was supposed to, I think he was just a reference to the caterpillar. I don't think he was supposed to be a different character. I think he was Professor Von
I think
Drake.
he's, I think he's the caterpillar, but Louis Vondre caterpillar. I think he is. I don't know.
Well, I took him as just kind of a reference. But then we get to Minnie, and I was like, okay, well, she must be the Queen of Hearts because she's planting roses. But then they called her Minnie, and she knew who they were. So
Yeah.
it was strange.
But didn't they also say they'd see her later? So it's like,
Yeah, that too, yeah.
yeah, and I was like, okay, you guys are being really confusing right now. So
Hmm.
I guess Minnie is not a character because she's real, unlike the others.
So did she
But
fall
also,
down the hole too, or what?
I guess,
Maybe this is where she goes that when she walks into the woods.
Ah, yes, it's all coming together.
did they not want Minnie to have a big role in this episode because she already was a big role wasn't there like Wizard of Oz inspired one?
Oh
That is in
yeah.
the final season, so that would have been after this.
Okay, then I don't really get why Minnie couldn't be in it more. Um, or why she's not a character. I don't know. It's very weird. Minnie is a little shafted in this, I think.
I feel like it would have been better if they'd just done a straight Alice in Wonderland story, but had Minnie be the star. Just do
I
Minnie in
would have loved
Yeah.
Wonderland.
that. I would have liked that a lot.
I don't know why it wasn't just that. Like it makes
Yeah.
me think like they couldn't put them in the episode, or they were just trying to be too unique and was like, well, we can do a Mickey spin on this, and then it just like didn't work.
But even then, it was the whole thing with Daisy's birthday.
It might be because Mickey has a connection to Alice in Wonderland already and through the mirror, the cartoon short. So maybe they wanted to kind of go off that a bit more because he
They,
has a
they didn't
connection.
they didn't reference that short at all, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't justify why they wouldn't use Minnie. I can't justify why Donald's even here. does he really need to be here? I don't know. The whole story of this special feels very off.
Yeah.
It feels weird, so I don't really get it. I don't know what they're trying to do here. It
Hmm.
sounds like somebody just went, we need an episode about timekeeping. They're like, oh, what's something that has to do with time? Alice in Wonderland. Oh, there's kind of a connection, Mickey Mouse and Alice already. So let's do that. And it's like, okay, I guess. So how did we feel about any of the other characters?
I mean, I liked Goofy. I thought that scene, made me like look back at the screen from whatever else I was doing. Um, I don't know.
I
The
think
the ch
Goofy
the
was probably the
chipmunks,
best iteration of of a Wonderland character in this. I'll say
yeah.
that.
Yeah, the chipmunks kind of annoyed me.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
Pete was okay, I guess. And
I thought it was weird that his underwear showed up first.
Yeah, I was about to
yeah,
say that. I didn't like.
I found his outfit weird. Like
Why
it
is he
was
wearing
like,
pajamas?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
supposed to be the Cheshire Cat or whatever. It's been a long time since I've seen Alice in
Cheshire cat.
Wonderland, but
Yeah.
yeah. Why is he not like striped or like on all fours for like this occasion or something? Like, why is he wearing like these weird pajamas?
It didn't make
it
sense.
didn't make sense like at all. And Goofy was the one that kind of made the most sense. And it was also like whenever they went into like the little tea party location, it looked nice. Like so much of this episode feels so bare. Like it doesn't look
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Wonderland. It looks like a poorly made 3D game of Wonderland. But then when
I
you
Hmm.
mean, I
finally
don't
get to
expect
like
them to remake the Disney Wonderland, but yeah, I agree. It looks
But
fair.
like when you go into like the Goofy scene, like you finally feel like you're in Wonderland, and that this Goofy is like a Wonderland character, not just Goofy.
The Goofy scene, that's where it finally started to feel like Wonderland. That's where the references started showing up because the bird is in his hat. So Donald
Yeah,
screams, "Off with your hat," which made me
yeah,
laugh. And
yeah.
then
That's
inside
good.
his hat is a puppy, a pig, and a frog, which I thought was clever, a clever nod to the book. That there's no puppy, pig, or frog in the Disney Alice in Wonderland, but I thought it was a clever nod to the book anyway.
Yeah, those are all animals that show up in the book.
And then after they have their chocolate milk party or whatever, which
I did think that was weird. I'm like, guys, you can't even do hot chocolate. Maybe they don't want kids dealing with hot liquids.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
But then they end up going to a place that's basically the chessboard from Through the Looking Glass,
yeah.
which I thought was clever. Like hardly any version of Alice in Wonderland or Through the Looking Glass seems to fully reference that scene. And then they had Clarabelle Cow as the Queen of Hearts, except her motif is arrows instead of hearts, which I thought was kind of a clever thing with what they're doing here, a way to tie it into the story and do their own thing with it.
I guess. I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like Clarabelle in this. Um,
I mean, of all the characters, if somebody in this show is going to be the Queen of Hearts, it's got to be Clarabelle. Although she wasn't as nasty as you would expect her to be.
yeah, I mean, well, Clarabelle's never nasty. I would love like a Mickey Mouse, an actual real Mickey Mouse Wonderland adaptation.
Hmm.
But there's not really anybody mean enough to do the Queen of Hearts unless you made it Pete and made it the King of Hearts, or he's doing drag or something or whatever.
Now I want this. I want Pete as
Yeah.
the Queen of
Yeah,
Hearts. Not
it,
not even the King of Hearts. Just make him the Queen of Hearts and don't explain it.
Yeah.
yeah, like that would be fun. They're not going to do that in here though. That's too controversial. But I would love to see something more like that. Clarabelle is just not mean enough for the Queen. But again, they weren't doing a mean Queen thing. They were doing a weird clock game, and I don't know. I was very bored during it, to be honest. It was like, yeah, croquet, clock. Um, it's funny because if anything, she should be saying something like "off with your hat," but she didn't. It was Donald earlier. Maybe they should have had Goofy come with them. But yeah, I don't know. Well, I wasn't a fan of her.
I mean, by the time they reached that area or whatever, I just remember thinking like again, like kind of how ugly the landscape was. Like I wasn't it wasn't working for me. Like nothing about like this episode besides like the clubhouse and the goofy tea party like really like was like pretty. And it's weird because I've watched like a lot of other episodes from throughout the seasons and not once did I ever kind of stop and think, wow, this animation is just like ugly or it's not working for me. But during the Wonderland episode, there was just a ton of things about it that wasn't working. So when they introduced these like rolling hills with like this checkered pattern, I was like, yeah, no, like the it just doesn't look very pleasing to the eye. And I was just like, please just hurry up and get back to the clubhouse so my eyes will stop hurting at all of this checkered patterns all over the place.
I I know that they did that because of Through the Looking Glass, but also why?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, why did they need to reference Through the Looking Glass? Like, yeah, Through the Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland are usually kind of combined, but this specific scene is almost never used, and it added nothing to this version. It was just the like something that they could do. I mean, maybe it was because it was easy. Like they could easily put a checkerboard pattern on these hills that they already have.
Yeah.
Because this did feel
that's the
cheap.
thing. Yeah, I think a lot of the show is. I'm sorry to put it down for people who love it. It is kind of cheap, especially with environments and stuff.
Hmm.
So I think they were like, we could easily do these hills and we could put a checker pattern on it. So it wasn't even like, I don't know if somebody was like, I really, really want to reference Looking Glass. I don't know if that happened or not. I think it was just an easy thing that they could do. And they were like, oh, and
Probably.
that would reference Looking Glass. Or maybe they didn't even know it would reference Looking Glass. I don't know.
That could be true too. Maybe they just knew that, yeah, sometimes Wonderland has a checkerboard motif. Let's just put that on the hills. They,
Yeah.
they may not
But
have
Why
even
not?
been referencing that scene.
I will say there's another potential reference that maybe not might not be a reference. It might just be an accident. So the way they get into Wonderland, we skipped this earlier, is through a slide, but actually is very fun. I don't care much for their slide scene. Like I think it could look a little bit more fantastical. But I like the idea. But anyway, so when they come out, and also they kind of have a two-part rabbit hole. So it starts at the slide, and then they go through like a clock, which actually I did like. I like falling through clocks, and they come out on the other side of the world, essentially, like upside down. And I
Hmm.
thought that could have been a reference to when Alice is falling down the rabbit hole. She thinks, "Oh, what if I fall right through to the other side of the earth?" Um,
Oh, it could be.
yeah, but I don't know if that's on purpose or if that was just kind of an accident.
We can be generous and say that somebody did it on purpose.
If the professor was like, "Yeah, I'm an antipathy," when he's there, then definitely a reference, but he didn't. So it's just kind of a maybe.
We didn't mention it too. They have when they meet the professor, he gives them like sparkles to shrink, which I thought was weird. They should have just done a cake or a drink like in the book.
So I think what happened there was, I think it was supposed to be a play on, how like mad scientists will invent shrink rays. I think this it was kind of like shrink sprays, but then I don't know.
Oh,
It ended
maybe.
up being sparkles. I'm very confused about what their thought process was, but I was like, but it looks like he's spraying though.
Yeah, I don't know. They're going for Wonderland. They really should have done an eat me cake
Yeah,
or a drink me bottle.
but my guess is they didn't want kids to potentially eat or drink things they don't know. Maybe.
I suppose, but if
Maybe.
you're gonna go with that, then don't show the characters jumping into a cavern. Otherwise, kids might go up somewheres and see a hole and like, oh, let's jump in and see where we land.
I mean, that's just a
Yeah.
Grammy award there, so no helping them.
I mean, you have to wonder how much thought they're putting into like their Wonderland references. Like they
Yeah.
could have just looked up a list of the characters. Like I Sparkles was probably the easiest thing for them to just put in there. I mean, and it kind of, I guess, makes sense because there's a lot of sparkles throughout the show. Like they use sparkles to circle things. They're like if Mickey will point towards something, it'll use like a circle of sparkles to like circle it so kids know which one is like the correct thing he was looking at. And then they also, of course, use sparkles to show the clubhouse rising out of the ground and then going back into it. So I guess it like fits.
So you think it's just like an aspect that was already there, that an asset they already used beforehand?
Yeah. And
That makes sense.
I think it just fits with everything else that they got going on with the clubhouse and magic and stuff.
Yeah, I could just see that they decided just to go with what they already had instead of potentially introducing eating foreign foods and objects. And then again, Goofy does give them chocolate milk, so the professor could have given them something to drink or eat,
Yeah.
or maybe like they didn't want to repeat like a theme of eating or drinking something. I don't know.
They're trying to teach kids trust Goofy over an old professor offering you something.
I mean, fair enough. There is risk when an eccentric, dotty scientist person offers you something to eat or drink.
Exactly. Goofy would never do that.
Goofy legitimately likes chocolatey milk. But then again, I don't think you should trust Goofy. I don't know if I trust Goofy with something he gave me to eat or drink either. So not for maliciousness. I just don't know if he'd goof it up.
Well, anyways, what I was going to say with them getting shrunk, my favorite scene of the whole thing, not even part of the story, just the scene of them seeing Toodles flying over them. I was like, this is like the preschool equivalent of the scene from Independence Day with the giant spaceship.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
I loved that. And then they grew right after that, so there was no more chances for them to be tiny around giant things.
There's also speaking of Toodles, he sported a pretty cool Mad Hatter hat during the Mad Tea Party. And I like
He
that.
did.
It's like, that's good. Pat Pat show. Good job.
He did one thing right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd say everything else is wrong necessarily. I liked Goofy Hatter, but other than those two things, I'm not like super fond of this one.
Yeah. No, this wasn't like awful or anything. I've seen much worse
Yeah,
versions of Alice in Wonderland, but
yeah,
it didn't live up to the potential of what I thought it was going to do. It was just they chose a strange story, having Daisy having a surprise birthday party, and they've got to get part of her present back for her, which has nothing to do with Alice in Wonderland. And really, the whole story was just kind of a vehicle for a few Wonderland references, some of which were clever and deeper cuts than I expected. Like I was not expecting a puppy, a pig, and a frog reference in a show
yeah.
like this. But that's kind of as far as it went, just some character references. They didn't really try and tell the story of Alice in Wonderland. They just sort of had a weird Wonderland-esque adventure.
And even some of these references, I would argue that I don't know if I could be convinced they're done on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange feel.
Yeah.
Oh, may I introduce a random tidbit? So this came out like right before or after Wayne Allwine died as Mickey. He's the voice. I mean, he's the voice actor. He was the voice actor of Mickey, so he was the voice actor in this.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's been so long since I've heard his voice. Like coming back into this, like it kind of like triggered like memories, and also like weirdly sounded wrong. And I was like, oh no, why does it sound wrong? I'm used to the new voice now, I guess. But I like Wayne better, so it was nice. Are you guys invested into the voice actor of Mickey?
I didn't think too much of it other than to notice that the voice at the beginning when I watched the first one was different than the voice at the end. And then I remembered,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is probably before not the original voice of Mickey, but the Mickey of that era. That was before he died, so that's why the voices were different. But I didn't really
Yeah.
think much
Yeah.
beyond that.
I went from season one, episode one to the Toodles birthday episode, and I noticed a pretty big difference between the Mickey voices, but it's like it kind of wears off that it's different after you like watch the complete episode.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did you, as a kid, notice the change or nah?
Um, Not that I can remember, because
Mm.
I don't think that was
They are
something
really
I
close.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were so close to where like I didn't notice because like a lot of kids shows do that where like you watch them for so long, the voice actors kind of change, and that was like I grew up and then I like learned, oh, they changed, and I had like no idea. It's like as a
Hmm.
kid, you're not listening for that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
listening for Toodle's lore. But I did want to say I kind of agree that this was a strange episode. I think it could have like when I was watching the other Mickey Mouse episodes, like I had fun with them. Like even I think the one I liked the least was like the episode one of season one, the like one where Daisy loses the sheep, just because it was a little slower paced than some of the feature episodes. But it still like kept my attention for the most part, and I thought it was fun. Like this is definitely something I would show to a kid because like it's still fun and it holds up. The Wonderland one, I didn't have like as much fun with. So
There's just so much potential in the idea that it
Yeah.
ends up falling short.
Yeah.
yeah.
Even in terms of the show, it's just not as good of a like the Happy Birthday Toodles one was a better episode than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, just not the strongest example for this show, I think.
Yeah. No, I think my expectations were too high. Like, I don't know how high expectations I had for the show in general. I kind of thought that I would be bored, and the fact that I wasn't really bored when I was watching it, like I was a little bit bored, but only when they were like repeating things, and like I was multitasking too, like taking notes and everything. Normally when I'm watching something and taking notes, I will pause the thing to take notes, and I
Uh,
didn't with this, so I just let it kept playing. But I never felt like, oh, I want this to be over so bad. Because I've had that with other things, like I cannot wait for this to end. And I didn't feel that with this, but I will say that the Wonderland episode, which I expected to be the best, was the most boring, which is kind of sad.
yeah, it is sad. Especially, I don't know if you've seen Abby in Wonderland yet.
Not yet.
Well, compared to okay, so Abby Wonderland is essentially probably what you were expecting, but from like from Sesame Street.
Yeah.
So that one was so good. And then like in terms of children's shows, this one really falls short of the line, is a bit disappointing. But it's also like inoffensive. Like I can't say I hate it. Uh,
Hmm.
I can't even say it was fully boring. It just it has a weird kind of flavorless vibe to it, I guess, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's the show at its best. Like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is at its best when it has all of the characters together in the clubhouse and they're exploring like the weird things that this place can do. And yeah, this just it didn't work. Like I think maybe they didn't have like the creative team for it that, could brainstorm the best ideas to take advantage of like a Wonderland setting because it's like chances are they were too used to the clubhouse setting.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be interesting to see a production like what happened here.
Mm. Yeah.
Hopefully 2.0, if they revisit Wonderland again, they'll do it better, but who knows?
Well, I guess until next time, do you guys want to let people know where they can find you if they want more from you? Jenna
Oh, you can find me as Phantomwise on YouTube or Love Gift of a Fairy Tale also on YouTube.
and Carmen.
You can find me on Instagram under at Kiki Doodles, with the name Pikachu Cat, and I post my photography, art, and lots of rants on my stories.
Okay, well, until next time. Thanks for listening to Wonderland Wednesday. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My link tree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.
Pass through the looking glass into Wonderland.